This is now the Student Showcase. This is an opportunity for teams around the world to pitch their projects to a panel of industry experts. Right, okay, that's what expert status. So if you guys could just go around and introduce yourselves to begin with. So starting with Alex, please.
Hi, so I'm Alex Darby. I'm the technical director at Gamer Camp, which is we offer sort of postgraduate courses in game dev. I guess our takes on it's sort of unique, but you know that you can read the website for all of that. So I've been in the industry since 1996. I've been a technical lead and a design lead, and I'm now a technical director. And the most famous game that I've worked on is probably DJ Hero, which I helped to create. But that's me.
Kristen, up next, please.
Yeah, I'm Kristen Bornemann. I work at ArenaNet and working on Guild Wars 2 right now. I've worked at Microsoft and WB Games in a failed startup down in San Francisco. Most prominent games, probably Guild Wars 2. I also worked on Alan Wake and helped launch Connect with Connectimals, like cute little tigers and bears game.
Phil?
Hi, yeah, I'm Phil Carlisle. Oop, no video. Yeah, so I got my start working at Team 17, working on the Worms franchise. Since then, I've done a huge number of projects, most recently with a company called Storybricks in London. We got some VC funding for that. So I run an indie developer right now, but I'm also part of a university running some games dev courses.
And finally, Shawn.
I've worked at a casino shop in Las Vegas doing multi-touch slot machine games as a tech artist, and then now I'm working at Sony Imageworks on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2. I just finished up Spider-Man last June, and yeah, we're basically in charge of all the data for the show.
Awesome. So the way it's going to work is that each team is going to present their pitch for 5 minutes. The judges will then have 10 minutes to cross-examine them, and then we'll move on to the next person in line, or the next team in line. And at the end of that, we should have taken 45 minutes, which means we'll have taken about 50. And at that point, the judges will then be able to give their feedback and decide which of the teams is taking home today's grand prize. So the grand prize is sponsored by Unity Technologies. We thank them for the support. It is a commercial license for Unity Pro, so hopefully they'll be able to use that to better develop their products and bring them to market. So kicking off straight away with Alistair Booth with the Dragons team at AIE Melbourne in Australia.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, I'm Alistair Booth from AIE, that's the Academy of Interactive Entertainment at Melbourne. Our project is the Dragons project. I've got a video here of the prototype we submitted, so I'll just try and get that up through YouTube. Okay, so I've taken the sound off the video, so you should be able to hear me talk over the top of it. This was the prototype we submitted. Our idea was basically a fast-paced multiplayer aerial combat game where you fly around as a dragon. We built the prototype in Unity. We thought it was awesome. We got it done in about 2 weeks. What we really tried to focus on was the feeling of flying fast and flying around really dynamically. We didn't get around to getting the combat aspect in there, but we knew we wanted to have really nice looking fireballs and fire breath particles. I'll let the video keep playing so you can see what we thought of that, what we got in there. The trails on the wings were the sort of things we're going for, where you really start to speed up. You get those contrails coming off and you get that feeling of going fast. Our art direction we were originally aiming for was a sort of avatar, tropical sort of Thailand style environment. We found when you're flying around it feels really slow unless you've got a lot of things in your face constantly going past you. So yeah, that was a prototype. We were happy with it. About 30 to 40% of the games pitched for the final projects got culled. This is one of the ones that went through. So we ended up getting a few more people added to our team. So basically it was a move to UDK because we had a really art-heavy team. As we had 2 programmers, and we found it a bit of a struggle because we only had about 2.5, 3 months, and we were picking up UDK for the first time. So we did what we could, but we had to change away from the multiplayer style game. Yeah, we originally, I'll pause this and talk about the control system. The original system we had was a PS2 style controller with the dual sticks, and each stick would control each wing of the dragon. So if you pull both sticks back, you fly up. If you pull one stick up and one stick down, you do a roll, both sticks to the side to yaw around. And that was a really nice dynamic style of control. A couple of problems with that were that not many people that have a PC have a PlayStation 2 style controller. So we developed another system where we used the keyboard and the mouse to fly around. It wasn't as dynamic, it wasn't as just organic and fun, but we got it to work in the end. But myself, I'd like to keep both styles of control in there. The other one is an option because it was a more fun system. If I've got any time left, I'll just talk about it from a business perspective because this is meant to be a Dragon's Den style thing. So we were severely limited by our deadline and our art-heavy team. If we were going to do an indie startup, we had about 7 artists, and I wouldn't choose to start an indie startup with 7 artists, but being it was a uni assignment, we had to give them something to do, which really pushed the direction of the game in a lot of ways. Also, I'd moved back to Unity from UDK just for the speed at which we can get stuff in, get stuff happening. I've probably only spent a week in Unity before I really felt comfortable with it. UDK, after 2 months working with it, I'm still not as comfortable as I'd like to be. The AIE does have an incubator program where they help teams, especially final year students that have made a game they really like, to turn that game into a company. It's a full year, it's like an extra year of the course, but you learn a lot of business and marketing things, and you take your idea all the way through to publication if you can get it published within that year. So providing enough members of the team and the right members of the team wanted to do that, that's how we take this forward in a business sense.
And that's
yeah, if anyone's got any questions, fire away.
I tell you what, why don't we start with Alex? You have you got any questions or any thoughts about what you've seen?
So, I mean, yeah, obviously there's lots of little things, but without playing it, it's kind of difficult to say anything negative, to be honest. It looks really nice, fancy, you know. The dragon slapping's maybe a little bit animatronic looking, but that might just be the video. I mean, the only negative thing I could say is that the camera angle made me feel sick, which is pretty unusual because I play a lot of first-person games and it takes a lot to make me feel sick. So,
no,
you know,
we didn't know whether we succeeded or failed when people felt flight sick watching it when we put it on demo. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just there's like one of those weird sort of you know, you're in a car, you're trying to read a book, it makes you feel sick, right? There's like a disconnect between sort of the movement that's happening and the movement that your brain sees. And obviously that happens with a real game, but I think in this one there's maybe a bit too much sort of swinging about. I mean, it's a minor thing ultimately. It's, you know, you can work that kind of thing out.
We didn't get it in UDK, but we had a nice system in Unity where the camera actually swings around and looks where you're about to move, and I think that's a lot more natural and it helps because when you're driving a car or in a plane or anything, you're going to look where you turn, so that might help a bit. But some people recommended we fix an axis so it was more stable, but we really didn't like that because the whole point is 3D flight in every direction. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I don't know whether the only other thing as well is I didn't really see any sort of I know your original pitch was like multiplayer combat with dragons. I didn't really see any, and I know you mentioned you didn't get that far, and then when you got the UDK stuff change direction, I remember you saying it would have been nice to see some sort of combatiness going on. I mean, I know you had only 2 programmers, so that obviously limits you somewhat.
Yeah, we got some AI dragons in there. They put a buy, but maybe the video is not good enough quality, and they're a bit dark as well as the sky. We needed to get a new texture on the enemy dragons. But you could fly around and shoot them, and even that was a bit of fun, just trying to shoot them out of the air. But a lot of stuff from this stage does need a lot of polish, just with the mechanics of the weapons. Yeah, but human players are what we'd like to be shooting at.
Yeah, clearly. Okay, I think I've probably said enough, so we should swap over to...
what about Kristen? Do you have any questions for Al?
Yeah, walk me through how you guys went about prioritizing that stuff. Since your bottleneck was coding work and code features, how did you go about deciding what they should be working on?
Well, we were new to UDK, so we originally started out with a plan and we thought we'd be able to do heaps really quick, and it just wasn't the case. We got slowed down. Like originally we worked on networking for a couple weeks, but if you've used UDK, there's a lot of hovercrafts in there, and everything flies like that, and we spent a good lot of time trying to make the vehicles act like a plane, and it just wasn't possible, so we started redoing the movement and physics sort of stuff, which completely broke the way it replicates over the network. We had to go back, and it just got to the stage where we were spending too much time on it. We had to scrap the networking and multiplayer parts so we could get other parts in by the deadline. So yeah.
At what point did you realize, it sounds like you switched directions a lot of times, at what point did you realize, hey, we need to scrap this and go in a different direction?
Probably about after a month and a half, which was a long way in, but it's sort of, it's your baby and you want to build it a certain way, but you just eventually have to bite the bullet. The most heartbreaking thing was having a problem that you couldn't solve, and then you say, fine, I'm going to do it this way instead, and then, you know, a couple hours later you come up with a solution to your old problem and you want to go back to it. You can't spend that much time going back to it.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
So, Shawn, you didn't see the second video, but have you got...
Correct. Yeah, I guess my big question was this was a student project, or why, I guess my question was, why were you guys short on programmers but an excess of artists?
Just the way it is at AIE in Melbourne at the moment. We had about 4 times as many artists in the final year. We have a programming stream and an art stream, and in the final year they both combined to work on projects together, and there was just an abundance of artists. We haven't had a team that was solely art. Yeah, it's just the structure of it.
Right. Okay, yeah, that was my only real question.
Yep.
So we'll finish up with Phil. Have you got anything that you would like to ask?
I do. There's a couple of things that I kind of wanted to ask about. The first one is the idea of, have you thought about changing the platform that you're doing these kind of things on? I'm assuming you're kind of going for PC, Mac, those kind of things?
Yeah, yeah, we are. Probably like an indie Steam sort of releases where we see it hitting. I think if we were going for something on a console, you'd want to have more single-player content. You'd want it to be more of a fleshed-out package. People keep saying it would go really well with Xbox. The type of controls we were talking about, it doesn't work as well on the Xbox controller with the PlayStation 2 because the 2 analog sticks aren't in line.
Yeah.
So it'd feel offline flying around there. So
I was wondering if you thought about mobile platforms.
Yeah, but there's too many controls. I mean, yeah, I don't think it'd work on a touch screen with having that much stuff in there, like to be able to shoot in different modes, to be able to, like, there's dashing forwards, doing barrel rolls, that sort of thing, and I think we'd just have to take out too many controls to get it going nicely.
You definitely have to simplify it. It's just the reason why I bring it up is that obviously the NVIDIA sort of guys are really trying to get a lot of 3D content for their tablets right now.
Yeah.
And actually it's a pretty good opportunity. I will just ask if you've seen a game called Dragon Commander, which is this kind of dragon, it's kind of similar thing to your, you know, the graphics demo that you had some interesting ideas from that. But basically the thing is you don't want to be going up against that, right? So
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking like a different platform would actually be a better choice for you. And the other thing is, just before we finish, the idea of doing a multiplayer game as an indie is a really, really, really bad idea. Seriously, for your first game, because the cost of actually running services and keeping servers up, and like your first game's generally going to tank anyway. It's just a huge, huge problem for indies. And I've seen loads of indie multiplayer games. I mean, not to be negative, but I've seen loads of multiplayer indie games that just can't afford to keep the servers running. So I would definitely suggest, if you're thinking about it, try and go for a single-player game first. Give yourself something to bank, basically.
Yeah. You don't think if we should tank spectacularly?
Well, I mean, if you want to do that and carry on and do the next game, that's fine, But it's just that, like, there was a game on Steam called Dogfighter. I don't know whether you saw that, but that was
I did actually.
Game, and it tanked, completely tanked, right? And there's so many indie games that have got the same kind of problem, which is that you just can't get enough players in initially, right?
Yeah.
So,
when you ask.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, right? You've got to try it, I guess, but.
Yep. Yeah, when you asked if I had played other Dragon games, Dragon Commander, I think you mentioned, we got people bringing up ones all the time, but I didn't see it so much as we were in competition with other Dragon games. I thought we were more in competition with other flight games. So you bring up Dogfighter, and I did play that a lot, and that influenced us heavily when we decided to move to keyboard control. But I thought that was definitely the style of game. So if they struggled, then I'd definitely see we'd struggle, because that'd be the same sort of niche. Those people that just like to play around quick and have a few death matches. Yep.
Right, that's all we've got time for. We're going to have to move on. Sorry, Al.
No, that's fine. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks a lot.
So, next up, if you guys just unmute your setup, please.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so this is the Ecosya team from, I think I'm saying this right, Ingasup in France. And if you guys want to do your pitch, your time starts now.
All right. Okay. Hello, I'm the Dr. Eka, and this is my assistant, because the two other is not here. We would like to present to you today our newest product at EIC, Eka Intergalactic Company. It's Ecosya. It's a game about saving the universe with a little robot. All of this is a simulation of real life plan, because yes, we plan to save the universe. Ecosya is a reflection game. At most, the robot must reach the generator in a 2D platformer like View to finish the level. You, as the player, must decide what path Atmos must take using space blocks. These blocks allow you to create walls, make Atmos go up or down, change the gravity, etc. And for more challenge, you must think on how to get the 3 stars to get the 3 stars and reach the generator atoms. Now I just do a little demonstration for you.
Right. We're doing this live, so it's kind of improvisation complete. All right.
Okay.
Sorry if it's backwards, but we didn't find a way to fix the camera. So as we can see, we have our main menu, and when we get to the play menu, we can choose different types of planets that we need to save during the game. So let's select, for example, the first planet, and check level 2, for example. So here we have, when each level starts, we have available blocks. These are the blocks that you can use to change the level and create your path. So as we start the game, we can see we have Atmos, which is right here. We have our generator down in the corner, right here, and we have to reach him. We also have the 3 stars, and Atmos is not moving because we are in the part of the game where we have to plan the path. If we press play, Atmos will stop moving. We'll take the first star and reach the generator. We'll have finished the level. We can go to the next one, but we won't have the 3 stars of the level. Now let's restart the level and change it a bit so that we can make a new path and get the 3 stars. We can select any part of the level, like this part, or this part, and assign a new type. This type, for instance, allows you to create walls. So if we create a wall, for example, when Atmos reaches it, it's going to go backwards. So if we press play now, we're going to see Atmos walking, getting the first star, going the other way, and then getting back the two other stars. And then going to the generator, we got the 3 stars, we finished the level, and we can continue with the best score. Of course, creating walls is one of the features of the game. We can create many other things, as we can see in higher levels. For example, if we go on Planet 3, the last level, which is actually the hardest level, we're showing you very exclusive pictures. So as you can see, we have 5 different types of blocks. Here we have our wall creator blocks that can also create bridges, but we can also use a block that allows us to elevate, a block that allows the same block to create bridges, a block that allows us to go underneath by cracking, a block that allows us to go through walls, and a block that makes sure the fall isn't too high, sorry, and make sure that Atmos doesn't die from such a height. So if we press play, we can see the effects. Each block has been programmed to do a specific thing, and we have many more blocks that we are not going to show today because that's secret, that's exclusive, of course. So after this small demo, we're talking about business. So we primarily targeted young adults on smartphones and tablets by giving them a fun game to carry anywhere and the possibility to be part of a great community. We've developed an integrated level editor and sharing functionalities, so you can create your level with any kind of skin. So each planet that you've seen right now, you can use them to create your own level, use your own blocks, well, the blocks we have defined, but use them the way you want, and you can share them with the whole world. We actually have features like featured map, maps of the week, maps chosen by the team, and we're really making sure that the community can use them. Ecosya will soon be available on Windows Phone and Windows 8, should be by the end of the year. We're not really sure right now, but you'll learn very soon. And it's set for early 2003 release on Android and iOS device. Now, if you have any questions, we're ready to answer.
Thank you for your attention.
Awesome, thank you very much, guys. So let's start in reverse order from what we did last time and start with you, Phil, if we can.
Sorry?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I was just wondering, this is it looks like a really nice project for the sort of iOS kind of devices and tablets. I'm just wondering how many people are working at your company right now?
Well, we're not actually right now. We're forming the company, and we were 4 working on the project. So 1 artist, 3 developers, and each of us had many different roles. For instance, Arthur here was more on business.
On the level design and on the business, the communication and marketing.
Yeah, and I was more on asset integration, music, sound effects, etc. And the 2 others aren't here, unfortunately. Unfortunately, so we're talking for them too.
No, it looks like a really nice project, and I think it'll do well on the platforms that you're targeting. So that's a really good sort of sign for you. The one thing that kind of struck me was, how do you ramp up the difficulty in the levels? How are you going to get that difficulty right for players? Because obviously, you know, especially for tablets, it's going to be a lot easier to manipulate than on a phone.
Yeah, you're right, because we work a lot with a lot of people. We want they try the game, and it's like this. We can adjust the difficulty with a lot of tests of ergonomy with player tests, and they say to us.
So using metrics from gathering sort of play data. Then.
Yeah,
it's probably a really good plan. I guess the real kind of issue is whether there's a huge market for this, as you say, for editing and sharing these kind of things. I'm not really sure about the iOS space, whether people do a lot of sharing kind of stuff, but obviously it's worthwhile building a website and those kind of things to help just sort of build a community. But yeah, it looks like a really nice project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think Phil hit on a lot of the points I kind of was thinking. One of the things that I kind of, he was talking about the difficulty, it's kind of reminds me of Angry Birds or Cut the Rope. It's kind of a very simple mechanic, but the game needs to start out very easy, and then as it goes on, it gets very difficult kind of thing. It needs a scale in difficulty because you're not going to get players that play this game for months or years. This is going to be something you download, you play for a couple weeks, and maybe you don't play it afterwards, or maybe you do. And maybe part of that is finding ways to keep the game updated and keep the players interactive. I don't know if you guys have seen the Cut the Rope, but I think it does a very good job of introducing new mechanics that work well with old mechanics and still make the game more difficult, yet keeps you enjoying success.
Well, really about updates like you were talking about, we in our business plan we were planning to release very regular updates with new levels, new mechanics that integrate the old ones too, and make sure that the keeps on going so that the players keep playing.
We want to do the same job like Cut the Rope, because we do a new planet when we do an update. We make a new planet with a new mechanic, like Cut the Rope with a new box and a new mechanic.
Right. Okay, cool. Yeah, it looks. I mean, for 4 people, it looks like it's really well done. Yeah, good job on the prototype. Yeah.
A lot of missed nights.
Yeah.
Get used to it.
Okay, so coming back to you, Kristen.
Yeah, so I sort of had similar sort of feelings and concerns about the level editor. How much time are you guys spending developing that?
Well, in fact, the level editor was decided quite a while after we already had a very nice prototype. We were looking for things that could make the game a little better, a little more social, let's say. And in that way, we decided to create an editor because the ways our levels are made are really cool. We already made an editor on the PC so that we can create our levels directly for the game. And we thought that why not, if players want to do the same, why not let them do the same?
Because all the players that we say just before, all the players who test the game want an editor.
So it's true. We have a lot of players that come often to play the game and often ask us when it comes out. We were told many times. So can I create my own levels? Is that possible? Can I share it to the world? And we thought that would be a good idea. It didn't take us really long. The level editor itself took like maybe half a month to develop. Social features, same. So it wasn't really compared to the rest of the projects. It's been a year that we're working on it, exactly, I think. So it didn't take us very long to do it. We already had the base for our backend. So
maybe the more difficult is to use Azure, no?
Oh yeah,
it takes a lot of time.
We use a lot of Microsoft technologies. And
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, so it's you now, Alex.
Right, so after the last game, when I was commenting on the dragon stuff, Kristen brought up some points that I totally should have thought of myself, and I was like, no, in fact, everybody did. So first of all, I want to say everybody's already asked most of the stuff that I wanted to ask. There's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, but before I say anything in any way negative or questioning, first of all, it looks awesome. Like it kind of looks like a finished game already. So you can't really knock that. My only real concerns are, so firstly, I've heard anecdotal evidence that Windows Phone is kind of harder to make money on, and you already said you're planning to release on other platforms. So you say you're doing a ports of Android and iPhone. What's your technology base that you're developing it all on?
Marmalade.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, yeah, point and click. No, good. Yeah, I like Marmalade. Good. Okay. Well, yeah. So that question's dealt with. So about the editor, you said you got a PC editor, right?
Sorry?
You said the editor's on the PC.
Yeah. Well, it's we needed tools because we have a lot of levels actually.
Oh no, that's entirely cool. I mean, from the point of view of the end user. So is the editor integrated into the game, or is it?
Yeah. The editor is really inside the game. We can show it to you right now.
That's cool. That's all I needed to know was that it was. Yep. So do you use that exact in-game editor to build the levels?
We have for the last planets, for the last updates, we've used editors to make sure.
So the one thing that you want to do is just to make sure, and I'm sure you've probably thought of this. This is just some advice. Like, I know the guys who at Media Molecule relatively well, not like super well, but well enough to know them to say hello to. Obviously, Little Big Planet is what you're doing times a billion potentially. So a lot of the problems they have are sort of moderation, server stuff, all of that infrastructure. I just wondered whether how you were planning to deal with that.
Well, actually, for infrastructure, so we're using Azure from Microsoft. So it's full cloud, and only when we need resources. We're planning also in our business plans to go as a BizSpark startup. So we can have Azure provided for free at the start with limited, of course, usage. But then, by the time we'll need, I think, more features from Azure, we'll be in measure to pay for more.
Okay, cool. Well, as long as you thought about it, that's the main thing. So my only final thing that I wanted to talk about was, is the whole game pre-planned? Like, you have to put the blocks in before you set him going, or can you do it while he's walking?
Yeah. Well, many levels have different paths. We've made them so our author worked a lot on level design to make sure that you can resolve a level in different ways. But you have to put the blocks first to define the path, and then press play to check if.
So if you're on a really hard level, say, and it's like maybe 20 blocks to get the path to the end.
Yeah. Well,
and you get the last one wrong. Do you have to like go back to the beginning and watch him walk through it the whole time, or can you just rewind it?
Yeah.
You probably want to deal with that, because if I played that game, I would turn it off after the first time that happened to me. I'm just really fickle, right? But I'm not the only one. I'm just saying. You have a look at Braid and do what? Rip off Braid and just have a rewind mechanic. Job done.
In fact, we thought about it. The fact that during really hard levels like the last we showed you, it's true that when you get something wrong, you might need to wait another 5 minutes to do it. But these kinds of levels don't block you in your progression. The first levels we made with a lot of different publics, made it be childs or persons that are older, and we've checked. Most of our levels can be done even if you get the answer wrong in 30 seconds, a minute. And the number of stars is really important, because once you have a bit like the rope, you have sufficient stars, you can go to the next planet and go. It's like a saw.
Like I have to cut you off there. That's
your time. I'm done then. But yeah, good work, by the way. Awesome.
Thank you very much, guys. So we're moving on now to our last team. So these guys are from DigiPen, and they're presenting a project called Perspectives. So do you guys want to take it away?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yep.
All right, excellent. Hello, everyone. We're from DigiPen, and today we're presenting to you Perspective. My name is Paul Hong Chen. I'm the producer.
And my name is Jason Mizell. I'm the design lead. Can you guys see us?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Can you see the slides?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so before we jump into the game, we would like to talk about a few games that we worked on in the past. So Jason and I worked on a game called Mouse. It's a experimental narrative-driven action game. Logan, our level designer, he worked on a game called The Fourth Wall. It's about world-wrapping 2D puzzle platforming. And our artists worked on a game called Nitronic Rush, a survival driving game. All these games have been featured prominently in showcases like the IGF in San Francisco and the Indie Game Challenge in Las Vegas. And we're really excited to come together to show you our game today, Perspective. I'm going to pass it back to Jason while he shows you a live demo. And see if we can get this to work. Okay. All right, there you go. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Awesome. All right, so the basics game are pretty simple. It's a regular 2D platformer. You can walk around on these blue blocks. When you get to the red blocks, you die. And the point is to get to the goal. So here's another simple level. You're just kind of walking around these blue blocks, but when you touch that goal, you can see that the camera rotates, revealing that the blocks are actually cubes in a 3D world, and now the camera is looking at it from a different angle, and you can create a new path for the avatar. So here we have another level that's more representative of the game. You can see that Ho-Hung can control it like a first-person shooter. The difference is when you left-click instead of shooting, it actually switches to controlling the avatar. And so that's basically the way the game works. You're going to be switching between 2D and 3D, controlling the 3D character to create a new path for the 2D avatar to traverse. over and over again until you can finally get the avatar to the goal. Now here's a level where the avatar is kind of trapped. You can see he's surrounded by red, and if he jumps off the edge, he'll just fall into the bottom of the screen and die. So the point here is what you can do. You can use this other block over here, move really close to it until it's big enough that it fills that gap, and he can get to the other side of the wall. Now here he's at the end of the wall, but that doesn't matter in 2D, because if you look at it from this angle, he can just move onto the other wall. So that's what you're basically going to be doing, going from wall to wall with these, you're traversing through the 3D level with the 2D avatar to try to get to the goal. So here's a pillar, just this blue pillar that the avatar can't run past. However, if Pohung moves all the way to the left, he can occlude the blue pillar and just move right past it. Now here's this really long hallway, and this would take a while to run down if you looked at it, like this and just kept kind of moving down it. However, a long distance in 3D is not the same as a long distance in 2D, so he can just run past it like that. Now, this level is slightly trickier. You can see that he has to move really close to this blue block to get a pathway that's long at all. Now, when he runs down there and moves away, you'll notice that he's actually sticking to the wall. The avatar isn't sticking to the blue block itself, which means that he can move over to this other blue block and complete the path. So let's keep going. Here we have a situation in which there's no way on one screen to get the avatar from one blue block to the other. You can see that he'll just die if he tries to land over there. However, if he pauses in midair, he can actually then move the camera and give him the platform to land on. And now this is really cool. We have a level where you can jump onto the ceiling. Now here's this long hallway that there's no blue blocks for him to run across, so there's no good way for the avatar to actually run through this hallway. However, if he jumps up into the center of the ceiling, rotates around, then he can fall down the ceiling. This is because gravity is down in 2D, not in 3D, which means that the same thing can apply to the floor and you can just fall down it. You can also run around the block on it. And so here's a more complex level where you actually have to use all these mechanics in tandem. So you can see he just jumped up onto the ceiling, paused in midair, then landed on this panel. He's occluding blue with the panel, and you just kind of have to, use all of these together in order to solve these more complex challenges. So that's all we actually want to show for this presentation. There's a lot more in the game that we're excited to show you guys as we get closer to launch, but for now, I'll hand it back to Pohung.
Okay, so I have some bad news if you wanted to invest in our product. DigitalPen owns the IP to Perspective, as they do with all the DigitalPen games. To turn this into a commercial product, we would have to build it from scratch with a new IP.
Now, there's actually a lot of precedence for this. I personally worked on an independent game called Sonar that was a spiritual successor to a game called Subsonic. There's also a game on Kickstarter right now called Distance, and it's amazing, and it is a spiritual successor to Nitronic Rush.
Similarly, Valve picked up the team behind Our Back With a Drop. It's a senior project at DigitalPen, and uses core mechanics to create a game called Portal. Shortly after, they picked up the team behind Tag the Power of Paint to create the draw mechanic for Portal 2. We're launching Perspective in the coming months as a free download. So the feedback we're primarily looking for today is to answer how do we market this game to the broadest audience possible and generate a lot of buzz behind this mechanic. So that's our presentation for Perspective. Thank you for watching.
Awesome, thank you very much, guys. So starting with somebody who we haven't started with before, so Shawn, you're up.
All right. Well, the first things I wanted to talk about were, one, I think it's a pretty cool idea. It's a very technical, it's a nice technical demo from what I've seen. I'm not sure exactly how all the tech's working, but it seems to be pretty, I didn't see any glitches or bugs, so that's kudos to that. And the one thing I did want to talk about, though, is it's basically it's not Fez, but it's very similar to Fez. I'm sure you've heard that before and all that. So I guess my thing is how you're basically going to be walking in their footsteps, everybody's going to see your game and think Fez. You know,
Right.
so I really think what you guys have to focus on is how are we different from Fez.
So yeah, we
you
actually got a lot of feedback on that. When we released our first trailer, we pretty much went viral. There were 600,000 views on YouTube for our first trailer. We got on Reddit, so we got a ton of comments about what our game is and what people thought about it. And one of the top comments is actually, "Hey, this game looks like Fez." Our game is actually quite different from Fez in the way that Fez you can only look at things orthographically, and you can
Right.
only change things from a certain view, right? And Fez is
Right.
also a big focus on the platforming elements, whereas our game is not so much of a platformer as it is a first-person puzzle game. Because the platforming
Right.
elements aren't meant to be difficult in our game. It's a matter of how do you figure out a way to line up your camera in such a way that can get your guy across the level.
Right.
So we feel like that's different enough from Fez where it would make an impact.
Right. Right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I mean, everything that I saw looks good. I think you know, I think I think all the games that you've seen come out of DigiPen that have a cool mechanic are able to take it to the next level. You know, but really it's about, you know, can you get the game fun? Don't worry about the art so much until it's going to be final or whatever, but make sure that the game is fun, basically. But yeah, good job, guys.
Okay, let's move on to Kristen.
Yeah, walk me through how much work is left on the game, in your guys' opinion.
So we're a lot of us are graduating soon, so the free version will probably only about a few months out from releasing. We have about 26 levels in our current build. What you saw is only the first few, because we have a lot of stuff that we want to keep secret until we launch.
Of course, what are you going to be working on for the next few months?
Basically polishing the ending. We're trying to figure out how to end our game, fixing bugs. I mean, it's been 18 months and we've been working on this, and our engine's written from scratch in C++, so there's a lot of tricky things that we're trying to figure out still.
And we also have a few more mechanics that we've been experimenting with and that we finally kind of locked down, and so we're going to be building more content for that.
Yeah, I mean, this whole game is all about iteration because it's a puzzle game. We've probably spent over 200 hours by testing, just figuring out how players interact with our game. So we're going to continue doing that for our new content and making sure everything is polished.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Okay, we're running out of time, but if we could go to Phil next.
Hey guys, yeah, I sort of second the other judges' sort of comments. Really, it looks like an interesting game. The one thing I would suggest though is that in the demo, it kind of looks a bit too easy. Like, you know, like when you're moving with perspective. I guess maybe it's if you're using a lot of 3D apps a lot of the time, you kind of get used to moving around a world in 3D, and maybe players will actually have more problem with it. But just from my point of view, it looked like it was a bit too easy to work out the puzzle route, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, we actually got that.
So obviously you get that from play testing, right? You'll understand.
We got that same feedback from people watching our video. What we noticed, there's a distinct difference, is that people who play the game think it's too hard. People who only see the video, which is just a developer playing, so we know exactly what the solution is, think it's too easy.
Yeah.
So we trust our play testers a lot more than we trust our viewers, and we feel like the difficulty balance we're
So that suggests that you need to look at the way you present the video to make sure that people understand it's not as easy as it looks.
Right.
So the other thing is that one thing I would suggest is that when I was looking at the character and you moving the character around the world and killing him, it didn't feel like I was caring so much about what was happening to the character. I know it's a puzzle game, but ultimately, kind of, it would be nice, I think, to have something where you want to protect the character, right? So the character is somebody that you empathise a bit with, and you get that feeling that, you know, like if he dies, you really don't want that to happen. You know, like if I'm going to do a puzzle game where the character's the thing that I've got to make sure that I care about what's going to happen to him, right?
Right.
So that's it. I think really, it's a really nice idea. It's kind of I've got a big downer on indie platformer kind of things right now because there's just so many of them, right? Everything kind of you know, like there's that kind of cool thing where everything's a 2D platform and it's got upside down gravity and black and white and God knows what. So I hope that you can get around some of that kind of negativity, you know.
All right, thank you.
And finally, on you for something very quick, Alex.
Yeah. So yeah, second everything everybody says. It clearly looks really polished and everything. Yeah. I mean, I'd agree with Phil that it looked easy, but I don't know whether. I mean, I can see your point that other people playing it find it hard, right? So, my one thing that I'd want to add there is, I assume that you teach it in sort of, this is something we've used. This is a mechanic we've used to, like, so for example, the pillar in the way thing, right? You introduce those one by one, right?
Right.
And
We introduce it slowly one by one.
Very clear that like each one of those things is a thing that somebody has to overcome, and then you incrementally build.
Spend a lot of time iterating on that. The first 15 levels is basically.
I know, to be honest, I think to Phil's point as well, we're probably not the best people to judge whether it's easy because we spend a lot of time dicking around with 3D applications, right? So you know, like when I went for my wife's ultrasound when we were having a kid, and I could totally see everything. I knew whether it was a boy or a girl. They didn't have to tell me. It was just like, well, they were like, no, but yeah, you know, you're not trained. I'm like, that's totally a winky. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, but anyway, yeah, yeah. I mean, it looks fine. I mean, I have to be honest. I think it looks. There's a lot of games that are really similar, like, you know, PSN games and all sorts of stuff. It's not to say it's bad. It looks really nice, and you know, yeah, I don't know. So I guess my only thing is, if presumably you knew when you submitted your game that this was a sort of a win a copy of Unity Pro if you win, right? But you know, so you've already got an engine, you've already got an end goal, you've already you know. So why bother? Just out of interest.
Okay, so the reason why we bother is because the Japan owns the IP to our game. So if we have to rebuild it from scratch, we might as well use something like Unity. It would save us a ton of time. Yeah, a ton of time. We don't have to spend 6 months
to go there, and then they own your IP.
They own everything. Yeah.
That sucks. It's like 40,000.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of the Japan games have continued past that by just rebuilding it from scratch, being a spiritual successor, and that's worked out for a lot of people. So.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, good work.
Thank you. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. So I'm just going to kick you off the broadcast again.
All right.
Okay, so we can talk about them now. Right, okay, so you've seen 3 projects. There could only be one winner. Everybody else will be a loser. So, how do you guys want to do this? Shall we go in a row and you can determine who's won? And let's start with Shawn. Who would you vote for if you had to vote, Shawn?
I would vote for... It's kind of a tough one. I would say it's a tough call because it's, you know, a copy of Unity. Is it gonna help this game? Is it gonna help the studio? Is it, you know, what's the backing for it? I would say my pick's for perspective. I think if they're gonna rewrite it, I think Unity could be a good, you know, tool for them to use. And I mean, as far as I guess my second guess would be Ecosya, but I feel like it's already so done that it would just be a port basically with Unity. So yeah, I'm going with perspective.
So that's 1 vote for perspective. So I'll just come back along the line of people I have here. So next up is Phil. What's your? Who are you going to vote for? And can you just briefly, very briefly, because we are short on time, say why?
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to agree there. I think perspective would probably would get most out of this. Mainly because, like you say, if they're going to transition from doing their own engine and they don't have the IP for it, I think that would be a kind of... They've obviously got the technical skills to be able to pull it off, so it's a matter of just redoing the kind of thing in Unity, and I think that's probably a valuable thing for them to do. The Ecosya guys obviously have stuff kind of already done, so it's a little bit late in their project to do anything useful with it. And I think that the other guys need to sort of think about, I guess, their audience, because they've got like loads of artists and stuff, but actually when you start a real company, you won't have that many artists because you can't afford to pay them. So yeah, I think the perspectives guys probably winning for me.
Awesome. Kristen, you're next up.
I guess I'm on the same page. You guys pose a very reasonable argument here. I agree the perspective guys will get the most out of a Unity license like that. They certainly, I feel like, have a long ways to go, and I think a couple months is optimistic for them, but at least Unity will set them on the right track and will get them going in the right direction.
and it's kind of immaterial.
Yeah, it's immaterial. That's fine, man. I won't say anything, and that way I can sound like I.
All right, fair enough.
No. I don't know yet. I think my favourite one's the French game because it's all kooky and European and stuff. I don't know. They're all. I mean, brutally honest, they're all a little bit generic. But I think the bottom line is you can't be not generic these days unless you do something bonkers like Peter Molyneux that kind of wonder whether it counts as a game or not. Yeah.
I agree. It was a hard decision for me between the two.
Hard. I think we should. Yeah, I think it's nice to be all socialist about it and just see who would get the most benefit. And I think I'd have to agree that the DigiPen people probably will. And they're going to need it to pay back their student loans.
Oh, yeah, there is. They're all great projects, though. It's just a matter of is that kind of how quickly can they get the project. I think that the thing about the Perspectives guys is that they have that indie kind of platformy thing, right? And that's kind of got that zeitgeist thing still going for it, I guess, until it's like completely and really thrashed that dead horse.
At least it wasn't pixel art.
Yeah, I mean, like,
or zombies.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have liked it if it was.
So you probably do really well in IGF, is what I'm saying. So maybe that's the thing to go for, right? You go for the IGF vibe.
Yeah, if you don't know what your target demographic is, you go for the IGF. Is that what we're saying?
Well, it works for plenty of people who win, apparently.
Yeah.
Twice.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you to the teams who've presented. It takes a lot to put yourself forward and stand up in front of the internet and show off your work. So you're all winners except for one of you is more of a winner, and that team is going to be Perspective. By a vote of the judges. So I'll be in touch with you guys to get you this license. I'd also like to thank the judges for taking the time to come and hang out and listen to the pictures, and they have absolutely no reason to come and give their time, and they did anyway, so that was really nice of them. Right, so we are now getting set up. We're going to have more sessions for you starting in a couple of minutes. We have Eric Johnson, who's going to do a day in the life of an indie PR guy. And on the other track, we have, I really should have it in front of me and I don't, Dustin Klingman, who is going to be talking about managing up. So thank you very much, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes.